Quiet on the set.
Quiet on the set.
Fine, whatever, guys. It's not gonna beat mine, so like.
All right, this is a competition. Lisa scored a
My name is Jasper Craven, and this is the story of James Whitey Bulger. The year was 1929. James Whitey Bulger's mother gave birth to James Bulger in 1929. Alright, it's 1929. James Whitey Bulger, just a child, is born in Everett, Massachusetts. James Whitey Bulger is born to a mother who has no disabilities and a father, also named James, with no right arm. He just walks around with an arm made out of wood, and he never could get jobs because it was around the Great Depression, hence 1929. So his father would go up to jobs and say, "Can I get your job?" And they would say, "No, you have a wooden arm." And so he couldn't get jobs, and so James was very much affected by this. He would always say, "Father, Father, we don't have the money, we don't have the money. Why do you not have an arm?" And it wasn't working for them financially. So they moved to South Boston. Franklin Delano Roosevelt had his first New Deal proposal in South Boston. The first ever, public housing project. The Bulger family was one of the first families to live in a public subsidized housing project. Now James was a very rowdy child. Part of it thinks they seen because of his father's arm. And so because his father didn't have many jobs, James was like always like, "Oh, the job stuff," and so he didn't have a job. And there was this one time where John Conley was walking down the street minding his own business, and all of a sudden some guy threw something at him, and it hit John Conley in the head. It was like a ball or some rock. And then John Conley picks up the rock and he's like, "Why are you throwing a rock at me?" He throws the rock, hits the guy who threw the rock, and the rock guy's like, "I'm gonna kick your ass." And then John Conley's like, "Oh no, the rock's gonna get my ass kicked." And then at the last moment, James Whitey Bulger comes up and he goes to the guy who threw the rock and he says, "You're not gonna kick his ass, because I'm gonna kick your ass, because I'm like Robin Hood of South Boston." And then the guy who threw the rock is like, "Okay." Flash forward, 40 years later, Whitey Bulger is the biggest freaking criminal in Boston history. Killing people, drugs, extortion, fraud, all of it he's doing. And guess what John Connolly's doing? He's an FBI agent, and because John Connolly was like, "Oh, Whitey Bulger stuck up for me when I was younger." It's like The Departed, except it's different. And so then John Connolly literally was like, "Whitey Bulger, I'm gonna let you be a fucking criminal, but I'm gonna protect it from the law." So FBI, law, John Connolly, Whitey Bulger, he's breaking laws. And everyone was like, "Whitey Bulger, we gotta arrest him, he's killing people, tens of no, not hundreds, maybe just 10, maybe less than 10. But he killed people." But John Connolly was like, "Shh." Whitey Bulger got away, and John Connolly protected him, and then there's this big, and so there's this big manhunt, because Whitey Bulger killed all these people, and he was just like, dead, dead. And so he's dead. Well, he's not dead, he's in jail, but he killed a lot of